Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone.
Authorities in Volusia County, Florida say that a New York man was placed under arrest this week after he took his truck on a joyride into the ocean on a closed beach, then gave a bizarre excuse for his actions. According to reports, the whole thing started just before 9 a.m. on February 6th when Volusia County officers were called to the oceanfront in the city of New Smyrna Beach. Lifeguards had contacted them after spotting a man in a white Dodge Ram pickup truck who appeared to be driving his vehicle into the water. In footage of the incident, the suspect, 48-year-old New York man Jason Bruskovich, can be seen driving through the waves and backing up directly into the surf. At one point, he even appears to attempt a donut. At the time, authorities say that the beach had been closed due to severe winds and high tide, and there was a real danger of the 48-year-old and his vehicle being swept away. He apparently got onto the beach in the first place by driving around its closed gates, which were clearly marked "Do Not Enter." Of course, that didn't stop Bruskovich from giving police a strange excuse when he was subsequently placed under arrest. While speaking to officers while being detained, he can be heard saying, quote, "It's not my fault the truck don't surf," and "I thought I was in England." As ridiculous as the situation was, it doesn't seem like the 48-year-old is going to be facing any penalties that are that severe. He was charged with violating a local county ordinance and failing to pay a vehicular access fee and was held on $200 bond.
Authorities in both Washington and Oregon released a tragic update in the disappearance of a 47-year-old woman this week, announcing that after several days her remains had been discovered under suspicious circumstances and that her fiancé has now been arrested and charged in connection with the case. The whole thing began late last month when 47-year-old Jeannie Enyart was reported missing by concerned family members. According to the family, Jeannie had last been seen by neighbors on January 27th when she was leaving her home in Portland, near the intersection of Northeast Holiday Street and Northeast 93rd Avenue. At the time, it was believed she was heading to a storage center just over the state border in Vancouver, Washington, to pick up some items for an upcoming move. After an investigation was launched, family members and friends spent days handing out flyers of the missing 47-year-old, as well as following up on leads about where she might be. At one point, they searched warehouses and abandoned homes in North Portland after receiving a tip that she might have been sighted in the area. However, this proved to be a dead end. At the same time that this was happening, a disturbing discovery was made about an hour's drive east of Jeannie's home in Skamania County, Washington. In the city of Stevenson, authorities found an abandoned car that had been crashed into a snowbank. It turned out to belong to Jeannie Enyart. While it's unclear exactly what happened from here, it appears that initially police thought the car was empty. However, a few days later, they confirmed that Jeannie's body had actually been found hidden under a blanket in the trunk. The cause for her death has not been released at the time of this recording, though investigators have stated that she died from, quote, homicidal violence. On February 5th, Jeannie's fiancé, 33-year-old John French, was arrested in connection with the case. According to reports, personal items belonging to him were found in the recovered vehicle, including his wallet, which was on the driver's side floor. Though French put up several messages on social media appearing to show his concern for Jeannie's well-being during the search and pleading for her to come home, her family now say they always suspected French's involvement in her disappearance. He and Jeannie had apparently broken up shortly before she went missing, and she was preparing to move out. Neighbors also claimed that they had witnessed Jeannie being physically abused by French. Jeannie's loved ones are understandably devastated about the crime and say that she was the glue that held their family together. The timing of the crime is all the more devastating because her eldest son just had a daughter, and Jeannie was reportedly very excited to be a grandmother. At the time of this recording, John French is facing charges including second-degree murder and abuse of a corpse. He remains in custody.
Authorities in Cheatham County, Tennessee say that a mother and daughter are facing attempted murder charges this week following a brutal attack against their husband/father, which they had allegedly carried out because he asked for a divorce. According to reports, the whole thing started just after 7 a.m. on the morning of January 27th when the Cheatham County Sheriff's Department received two 911 calls in quick succession about the same residence in Ashland City. The first call was placed by 29-year-old Kelly Davis, who said that she and her 62-year-old mother Pam had been attacked by her father, 59-year-old David Davis. The second call was placed by David himself, who claimed that it had actually been the other way around. When officers arrived at the scene, they spoke with both parties separately to try to work out what had happened. At first, it apparently seemed like Kelly and Pam were telling the truth, especially after Kelly reportedly showed police a number of apparent knife wounds to her torso and neck. She and Pam were both inside the family home crying when officers found them, with Kelly stating that her father had, quote, done this before. However, things started to change when police noticed that all of the wounds that Kelly and Pam had sustained were superficial and were not very serious. Conversely, when police spoke to David, they found him suffering from injuries to his head that were severe and still bleeding. The 59-year-old was shirtless and appeared to be in shock, telling officers, quote, I've had better days. David explained that the previous evening he had gotten into an hours-long argument with his wife Pam after telling her that he wanted a divorce. He said that he awoke the next morning to find his wife beating him in the head with a frying pan. Things escalated from there very quickly, he claimed. His daughter attacked him with a knife, and Pam proceeded to try and choke him with a belt. He managed to get away and run to a neighbor's house, which is when he called for help. While the situation is still under investigation at the time of this recording, it seems that for now, police believe David's version of the story. His wife and daughter, meanwhile, were arrested on attempted first-degree murder charges.
Authorities in Somerset County, New Jersey say that a 27-year-old man is facing multiple charges this week following the brutal murder of a young woman outside her home, a crime that investigators allege was meticulously planned by the suspect in advance. The incident began at around 10:20 p.m. on January 30th, when police in the town of Somerville received a 911 call to an apartment complex on North Bridge Street. Alarmed residents said that they had found a young woman who appeared to have been the victim of a vicious attack. When officers arrived at the scene, they found the victim, later identified as 27-year-old Mary Rose Feely, suffering from dozens of stab wounds. Emergency responders tried desperately to save her life, but sadly, she soon died of her injuries. Upon further examination of the scene, authorities realized that Mary had likely been the victim of a terrifying ambush. The front passenger side door of her vehicle was open, and several of her belongings were scattered across her front yard. They also learned that she had been on her way home from a business in the neighboring community of Bridgewater at the time of her murder. After launching an investigation, detectives recovered 2 important pieces of surveillance video reportedly linked to the crime. The footage showed a man dressed in a black face mask and gray sweatshirt standing near Mary's home about an hour and a half before her murder. Authorities now allege that man is 27-year-old David Schroitman, a former classmate of Mary's who graduated the same year as her from Somerville High School in 2014. When police first approached Schroitman as part of the investigation, he reportedly refused to speak with them. At that time, detectives noted that he had a plastic garbage bag over the driver's seat of his Toyota Camry, and that duct tape and what appeared to be a black face mask were also inside the vehicle. Police claim they later observed the 27-year-old as he performed a deep clean of this same vehicle, one in which he used copious amounts of bleach while wearing latex gloves. One of these gloves was allegedly found to have blood on it when Schroitman disposed of it. The most damning evidence against the 27-year-old, though, apparently came when investigators obtained a warrant to search his residence. Inside, they found more blood, bleach, and a manifesto written by Schroitman, laying out in disturbing detail how he planned to kill Mary. Those who knew Mary say that they are devastated and stunned by her sudden and brutal death. According to an online obituary, she graduated from Rutgers Business School in 2018 and was a former federal employee for the Naval Surface Warfare Center. Her true passion, though, was her work as an advocate for people struggling with drug addiction, which she considered her life's mission. At the time of this recording, the motive behind the crime remains unknown, though Schroitman is now facing a number of charges, including first-degree murder, possession of a weapon, tampering with physical evidence, and hindering prosecution. The situation is still developing.
Authorities in Calgary, Alberta say that a local drug dealer's entrepreneurial spirit may have landed him in jail this week after he recently tried a rather unique marketing technique to drum up new business. According to reports, the whole thing started on Christmas Eve 2023 when Calgary police received a tip about unusual drug activity outside of a casino in the city's downtown. When they looked into the situation, they learned that someone had been handing out business cards to patrons of the business, ones that had quite the interesting free sample attached, a small baggie of cocaine. With little other information on the business card other than the name Alex Lee, authorities didn't have much to go on. However, after 6 weeks of investigation, they were apparently able to crack the case. On February 3rd, officers conducted a traffic stop on a white 2020 Toyota Tundra. What they found inside was enough to arrest the driver, 30-year-old Saeed Amir Razavi, as well as help them to obtain a search warrant for his residence on Beaconsfield Place, Northwest. During the subsequent search, police recovered $1,280 in cash, 60 grams of cocaine that had been divided into more than 50 small baggies, and most damning of all, a box of those business cards with the name Alex Lee on them. At the time of this recording, Razavi has been charged with 2 counts of trafficking a controlled substance, 1 count of possession for the purpose of trafficking, and 3 counts of possession of proceeds of crime under $5,000. He has since been released from custody, with his next court date scheduled for February 26th.
Authorities in Allen County, Indiana say that a 60-year-old man is facing murder charges this week after he allegedly killed his girlfriend and then staged the scene, concocting a bizarre self-defense story that he claimed started with an argument over onions. The whole thing started around 8:30 p.m. on February 3rd, when the Allen County Sheriff's Department received a 911 call from a residence on the 10,500 block of Lagoon Drive in Cedar Creek Township. The caller, later identified as 60-year-old Charles Michael Calvert, stated that his girlfriend had come at him with a knife. Disturbingly, he went on to say, quote, "She is no longer with us." When officers arrived at the scene, they found Calvert waiting for them outside on the driveway with his hands up. They continued on into the residence, where they found a woman lying on the ground in the kitchen. She was unresponsive and had no pulse, and sadly, was pronounced dead at the scene. Calvert identified the woman as his girlfriend of roughly a year, 64-year-old public defender and former Allen County magistrate Marcia Linsky. Marcia had suffered obvious knife wounds to her head and upper body, including a large gash on her neck. One of her thumbs had also been almost completely severed. According to Calvert, the two of them had been making dinner that night when suddenly Marcia got aggressive. She told him that he was chopping onions incorrectly and out of nowhere pushed the crock pot towards him, which fell and smashed on the floor. She then grabbed a knife and attacked. Calvert claimed he grabbed his own knife for protection and said he couldn't remember exactly what happened after that, but that it had ended with Marcia getting hurt. Unfortunately for Calvert, police apparently noticed a number of details very quickly that didn't add up. For starters, there was evidence of a struggle in other parts of the house that suggested the incident hadn't actually started in the kitchen. On top of this, the knives placed near Marcia's body were fairly clean. This led investigators to believe that the scene had likely been staged. Upon further analysis, detectives found even more details that reportedly didn't add up. They now allege that Calvert may have waited up to an hour after Marcia was dead before phoning 911, during which time he may have showered and cleaned up. On the phone, he sounded eerily calm and also appeared to be in no rush for help to arrive. Even his central claim about the onion chopping argument apparently fell flat. There was an onion skin in the garbage, but police didn't actually find a chopped onion at the scene. According to reports, Calvert was arrested and is now facing murder charges. So far, police have not released any information about what they think the actual motive behind the crime was.
Authorities in Las Vegas, Nevada say that an online climbing influencer and self-identified anti-abortion activist is facing charges this week following his latest publicity stunt, which allegedly caused more than $100,000 worth of damage to the city's newest attraction. The whole thing unfolded on February 7th when 24-year-old Mason Deschamps scaled the newly constructed Las Vegas Sphere. The attraction, which has only been open since September of last year, is 367 feet tall and took Deschamps roughly 20 minutes to complete. The climb is what is known as a free solo, meaning that it was done without the assistance of any ropes, gear, or protective measures. Understandably, the stunt caused quite a stir in the area, which according to the 24-year-old was what he wanted. While live streaming the whole thing to social media, He explained that he was trying to raise money to prevent a 37-year-old homeless woman named Isabel from getting an abortion. According to reports, this is far from the first time Mason has done something like this. Calling himself the pro-life Spiderman, he has scaled a number of well-known buildings and structures in the last couple of years, usually for anti-abortion related causes. These past climbs include the New York Times building in Manhattan, the 50-story Devon Tower in Oklahoma, and the 600-foot Accenture Tower in Chicago. While the 24-year-old has been arrested numerous times for these stunts, his latest could be his most costly to date. According to spokespeople for the Las Vegas Sphere, the outside of the structure, which features more than 58 million lights, is extremely delicate, and the aluminum tracking that holds them was never meant to support the weight of a human. The exterior is so delicate, in fact, that even repair workers doing maintenance on the structure access the panels from inside the venue. At the time of this recording, company representatives say that they are still assessing the damage from Mason's climb, but estimate that it will take in excess of $100,000 to fix what was broken during the stunt. As a result, the 24-year-old has now been charged with destroying property greater than $5,000 and conspiracy to destroy private property. Despite this, Mason was apparently unfazed during his arrest this week. He reportedly bragged to police that he has never been convicted for his past stunts and that, quote, his attorneys will get him off for this incident as well.
Authorities in Delaware County, Pennsylvania say that a community has been left shaken and in mourning this week following the tragic death of 5 people at the alleged hands of one of their own family members. The whole thing started shortly before 4 p.m. on February 7th when Delaware County Police received a 911 call from a residence in the community of East Lansdowne. The caller stated that a young girl had been shot, and according to reports, more gunfire could be heard in the background. When officers arrived at the scene, a 3-story home on Lewis Avenue, they attempted to enter through the front door. However, they were forced to stop after they were shot at as well. 2 officers were hit, one in the arm and one in the leg, prompting police to take up defensive positions. Not long after this, a fire broke out at the house, one which quickly spread as firefighters were not able to approach due to the danger. By the time it was finally deemed safe, most of the residents had been destroyed. Sadly, as police searched the wreckage over the next 2 days, they ultimately recovered the bodies of 6 people. 5 of those people have since been identified as husband and wife, 40-year-old Shang Lei and 37-year-old Brittany McLaughlin Lei, as well as their 3 children, 17-year-old Natalia, 13-year-old Michaela, and 10-year-old Xavier. The remaining person is said to be Shang Lei's 43-year-old brother, Kan Lei, who is now believed to be the person responsible for the devastating tragedy. While nothing has been confirmed at the time of this recording, according to the only 2 survivors of the incident, Shang and Kan's parents, the incident began that afternoon when Kan got into an argument with one of his nieces. At some point, the grandparents claim that they overheard Kan saying he was going to grab a weapon, after which they heard gunshots. They managed to run to safety because they were on the 1st floor at the time and were apparently the ones who called for help. Police have confirmed that the charred remains of a rifle that was used to shoot at officers was recovered amongst the burned debris. However, the cause of the fire still remains under investigation, as do the exact causes of deaths for all of the family members. An alleged motive likewise has yet to be determined, with some reports citing the surviving grandparents who simply stated that their son went haywire. However, additional local news sources may provide some further insight, stating that Kan was recently divorced and out of work at the time of the incident. Still, other reports mention that Kan was previously charged with making terroristic threats, trespassing, and disorderly conduct in 2006. As for friends, loved ones, and neighbors of the victims, they say that the Leis were beloved members of their local community. A statement released by surviving family members reads in part, quote, Brittany and Shang were a happily married couple for 17 years, loving and devoted parents to their 3 children, their extended family, and their beloved friends. Their 3 children all excelled in academics, the arts, and sports. Our hearts are broken, and we vow to cherish the memories of our loved ones, and we will work to ensure that their legacies live on. At the time of this recording, the situation is still very much under investigation. Thankfully, it has been said that both police officers wounded during the incident have now been released from a local hospital. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.